So welcome everyone to our first summer Sturgeon Moon poetry reading. For those of you that have not been to a Sturgeon Moon poetry reading, the reason it's called Sturgeon Moon is because the Sturgeon Moon traditionally is the full moon in the month of August. And during that time, Native Americans were able to catch more sturgeon than any other time. They seem to come up to the surface. And right now, 23 of the 29 or so species of sturgeon are endangered. And we celebrate all forms of poetry here at Sturgeon Moon Poetry, but we particularly highlight lyrical narrative poetry. And lyrical narrative poetry, as you may know, is basically on the wane in terms of poetry. So we want to celebrate lyrical narrative poetry, and we have some wonderful lyrical narrative poets here to do that today. And I'm going to introduce, our agenda today will be, I will introduce each of our two featured readers and read a brief bio of them. And then after our featured readers finish, we will have our open mic and I'll say something about that then. So first of all, today's Sturgeon Moon featured reader I'd like to introduce is Shelley Chesley. And I have known Shelley now for several years, and I'm really excited about hearing her read today. She has published poetry in 3 editions of the literary journal Nostos, which is edited by Lawrence Turnell, who is actually here. Thank you, Lawrence, for being here. And in 2 anthologies of the Marin Poetry Center, as well as in the online poetry journal Canary. Her first collection of poems, Come Back Behind Your Eyes, published by Longship Press, came out in October of 2023. She will have a poem published in an upcoming edition of Portland Review's online literary journal. Making poetry a late arriving grace continues to enrich her conversation with self, others, and place. She adds it to her life's list of unfolding explorations as actor, theology student, and liturgist, storyteller, MD, and multi-faith hospital chaplain. Let's welcome Shelley Chesley.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for showing up here for some poetry. I'm happy to open for Stephen and for all of us who will be reading today. And I will be reading mostly from the book Terry just mentioned, Come Back Behind Your Eyes. The first 2 that I'll read take place in southern New Hampshire, where its lakes and mountains are just getting underway. And in this one, I leave the dog behind and take a walk with a bird. Great blue in the channel. Your figure took form when I stopped just there, let my eyes catch up. Slender friend, supple one, we kept pace together. Silent waiter, barefoot walker, quiet, down deep in our skins. A language of green with summer's hold on acquiescent tongues. On my return, the meadow breathed in rhythmic waves of mist as I stood just there under August's blue moon, under a sky still wrestling the sundown. The late Donald Hall was a U.S. poet laureate, married to poet Jane Kenyon, whom he long outlived. They had a farmhouse not too far from the lake, just featured. And this poem was inspired by the afternoon that my husband and I went looking for their graves in a rural cemetery. Stalking Donald Hall. Not so easy to find you. No wounded ground, no brown mound beckons. Nature hastened to render you decent, a leisure suit on the cheap. August weeds approach your stone, inscribed next Jane's for ages. No end date yet, you're freshly dead, though Jane's stands bowed head ready. You two yoked once more, what remains? body, absence. Your monumental souls live on for us, if not in you. Praise for death, the title of one poem. Let us now praise death. Would you have us do it for you? We don't say it all, and maybe if you could, you no longer would, though I think you might. I must admit it's long. Or do we shuffle off self-conscious, confused by idling pickup truck, a shout that will get mown down by the cyclist among the gravestones? We watch her lumber by, helmet-headed against the forgiving earth, the holy ground she rolls so slowly, a slug might slip away. Moving to Massachusetts now, I'd like to offer one about a place that Stephen and I have in common, Cape Cod. Truro speak, after David Wagner. I lose my way, a fine thing, as long as I let myself be found by wherever I end up. Sometimes land says you belong, lone seal surfaces, silent surf-churning glory, shark dark wedge in noonday's glare, and surprise, you approach nonetheless, to take her in, to sound her take, perennial questions, revisited obsessions, just come down to finding home. Does the taste of that settle with this salt on the breeze, these eyes outriding waves' constancy? Perhaps it's my only one brother who beckons a welcome. His steel-pinned ankles, paint-stained hands anchor this place of our father's last stand, his savored countdown of summer days, where green, blue, and white pitch woo, bewitching light, now as then, here where lists and shifts my own tangle-thick nest grown holy down all these long years untended. So the context for this next one is our then 18-year-old daughter heading off for a solo itinerant gap year between high school and college. Driving you to Guatemala. When I drive you to Guatemala, it looks like the San Francisco International Airport. I am not taken in. I sense the presence of snuffling coatimundis, sucking mud clay, finger painting my toes together. I capture with wet finger the particulate volcanic air, taste its coffee terraces. When I drop you off in Guatemala, it looks like a shadow man in a shallow doorway, whispering a language I do not know. A woman weaving her cosmos into fabrics for tourists, some seriously sad history still going down. When I drop you off in Guatemala, it lands like a cliff edge, a glimpse of some red essential, snagged, torn, and smelling of iron halfway down. You stroll across the abyss, passport dangling, a backward glance I cannot read. Guatemala shows up like fear and beauty, guns and strangers' kindnesses, and I don't know who will get to choose. I have already fed the blessing of one fellow traveler to another with my very last silver spoon. Saying goodbye to mother, really, the both of us were. From aboard a 737. Earth is the thing from here. Her body stuns from miles aloft. Stone, ice, sand, and treefall engineer each river, bend by sinuous bend. Mountains rise like giants' origamis, ponderously pinched and folded, ridge upon ridge upon ridge. Long contracts elude us, Earth's in-kind responses to moment by moment's peculiar grind, multiplied by eons. We've no patience of gone people. No giant's hand's perspective crafts our city blocks. Our geometric forms eschew her curves, royal and fitful union, straights and squares, perfect circles, countless cubes and towers, tame breaches, bumps and silver snakes, trees, legion upon legion. A dominion of sorts up here, even higher than giants' eyes. If such perspective got to judge, I'd wrestle for those robes. Demise of the family parrot. Death enshrouds your house now, soft-footed on the roof, as fond of your next fitful turn as your next breath that does not come. Black-capped, this reaper bobs and pecks, preens green, now yellow, feathers. She'll bed down with anyone. She hunkers in our bones. So mind that gap, twixt quick and still, with tenderness and dread. No way to know who may be next, whose shell-like feet, whose slim piano fingers. It's hard-won ground that slips away, the striving to make peace. My eyes shy at the dull gray clay of life sucked dry and still, when blood is made for moving. So I did want to include a poem from the domain of hospital chaplaincy. This one is a persona poem. I'm speaking as the terminally ill young houseless patient that I worked with. It was difficult for her to receive care on many levels. Young woman to chaplain, a query. Spare change, tarot cards, crystal balls and entrails, queue up for Our Lady of Guadalupe. I'm a counterphobic juggler with an altar call on speaker repeat. Searchlight on for the savior of person-sized end times. And did I matter 1 iota? And chaplain, who the hell are you? Telling me I'm not alone? Maybe so, maybe never. I'll be the one deciding what if your voice offers sound refuge, a geography of silence, pitch, and tone, a tent pole to tether truces to, have a lie down. Here's quiet valleys. I breathe in them like a lolling mammal on holiday. What of the heat of our hands conjoined, lonely things still alive? Where do they fit in? Can I see by that tiny fire's light, sparking at the ends of our fingers, where whose are whose is confused, so death's confounded and bewildered by where begin you and I end? It's just not time for that yet. And when you tell how I died fast there at the end, how my boyfriend may never forgive me for what I did to his car, remember my eyes, how hard they fell for the silence of our folded wings. Well, the last one from the book that I'll read before I read a few new ones is a poem about writing poems and where they can come from for me. Dear poems, Resplendent in velvet dresses, you float in from ether's sphere, shuffling, flying, swinging through trees. You slouch, you buzz, you touch down, you awaken and provoke me. With a proffered hand, an embrace, your flirtatious dreams passing through. Whispers I cannot decipher, pressed into my palm, as you brush by, your ghost scent of lemons entices. You're welcome, you say, for the blood bruise, the feather, the sob, for which I have not thanked you. Oh, no, but I do late at night, if my blanket fold becomes a pen. You whisper how you wakened under the knife, touched your own brain before the nurse found his way to your hand. Incredulous, agog with such chance, I ask what it was like. Smugly, maddeningly, you turn to me and muster merely moist and firm. So this newer piece welcomes summer for us and celebrates your local gelato shop. This is one that just got picked up by Portland Review. Stracciatella. Wrist wheedled from out-honed steel, hot washed to a surgical shimmer, you glow, pistachio. Paddles and scoops, marble top ready, hot water ensconced, get doled, Nocciola. Glass shielded in bins like incubated babies, pastel swaddled lineup in bassinets. What a summons, vanilla persimmon. A cue worthy of cordons in flip-flops, heels, and nearly no clothing. Pointing fingers, palms resting messy on plexiglass, sweaty senses ramped up to an ogle, primed to indulge your charms. Taste that quick fix return to gravel-etched knees, fresh bloodied chins, fireflies ablink in kir jars, bare feet in creeks, forts in trees, balls in the street, kisses round a bottle. Oh, these summer's domed sweet loaves hold our heavens. Silence. Black snakes made free with our attic that spring, smooth, dry-skinned, and thick as young girls' arms, they laid claim and coupled in silence. Among Halloween costumes, vintage dishes, atop dusty boxed pornography. Wisteria granted Russell-covered access, red painted soffits beckoned them in. They multiplied silently, repeatedly, inspired by photos whose thump and drive swelled between rub of scale on scale. Snakes discovered by unluck, unsuspecting insurance adjuster, agog at their presence, their writhing lives, broke silence along with our ceiling, penetration by way of high heel. Days later, a lonely, lusty straggler strained to woo my mother, draped itself in seductive coil round her wall-mounted medicine chest, arced and tongue-flicking, all fiery-eyed but silent. Father dead since winter, duly ashed and scattered, only one who knew. Silent as the tomb, his trove, his father's archive, content unbridled, running to excesses, gave snakes all kind of permission. My mother nursed such bitter fruits insurance couldn't cover. Told anyone who would listen, so everyone knew. I never saw the evidence for her succored animus. Just the violence it did silence. I never got to parse my heartstrings till she no longer knew me, seemed to look right through me, and it no longer mattered whose wanting side I clove to, one each side the grave, they sunder me with silence. And to finish off, here's the last one. This one's called Dappled Interior, with the epigraph, Kinney's Island, Severn River, Ontario, Canada. Compounded by sun, of breeze and leaves pestled, reckless dosage of photons and shadows, administered lavish in dumbstruck surround, titillates arm hair into handstands, mesmerizes eyes to a lull, infiltrates ears with whispered twitters, nose with sniffs of pine gum. Such medicine penetrates one's breastbone, drums touch points through to spine, soothes what lies wedged heavy in between the lungs. Personal sacrament, like pinned insect among saved pages, evocable as grade school paste, its smell melded taste, so ready to spin kick its wings and take you any chance it gets. Secret in plain sight, winsome coupling, dark and light, harmonics of opposites. You merge to one at dawn and dusk, and fold us in your shadow tango, and teach me all your moves. Thank you, everyone.
And thank you very much, Shelley. That was terrific. Shelley's poetry is so musical. It has such substantive content, and you read it so very well. Thank you so much. Let's give her another round of applause. That's great. Thank you. Excellent. And I asked, while you were reading, Shelley, I asked Lawrence Chernell, the editor of your fine book, to post on the chat a way to purchase your book. So he has posted the website, which is Longship Press, www.longshippress.com. So if you would like to purchase Shelley's book, please go on the website and do so. Longship Press is a wonderful press, local to the San Francisco Bay Area in Marin, and you can purchase several books there. I will ask Stephen, after I introduce Stephen, after he's read, to post his website where you can purchase all of his books as well. So thank you. All right, so next up, we have Steven Riel. For those of you that do not know Stephen, Stephen and I go back a long way, longer than I care to remember sometimes. But Stephen and I actually both graduated from the MFA program in New England College in Henniker, New Hampshire. And I've been a long admirer of his work, and I'm delighted that he is a part of our Sturgeon Moon poetry reading today. We've been talking about him doing a reading for Sturgeon Moon for a long time, and I'm really, really glad you're here, Stephen. So just to read his brief bio, in case you didn't catch it, Steven Riel is the author of 2 full-length collections of poetry, Edgemere and Fellow Oddfellow. His chapbook, Postcard from P-Town, was published as runner-up for the inaugural Robin Becker Chapbook Prize. His poems have appeared in the Minnesota Review, the International Poetry Review, and the International Poetry Review. He edits the Franco-American journal Renaissance. Recipient of a Massachusetts Cultural Council grant, Riel was also named the 2005 Robert Fraser Distinguished Visiting Poet at Bucks County, Pennsylvania Community College. He holds an MFA from New England College and is recently retired as manager of the Serials Cataloging Unit of the Harvard University Library. Let's give a big round of applause to Steven Riel.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Terry, for your generosity in providing this platform for other poets. And I want to concur with you. I mean, the accomplishment of the music and Shelley's poetry, and the precision of meaning is really remarkable. It was such an enjoyable thing to hear from me. I'm reading poems from my latest book called Edgemere, and I'll post the link to my website afterwards. The first poem I'm going to read is called A Cage's Lament. Yes, Mr. Pigglesworth, you wipe your beak against my kiln-baked skin, but I want to hold you, really hold you. You know me as the obstacle. Without understanding that inside I become lava whenever your feathers brush my bars. If only I could cheer up and inform you, your incessant sawing and clawing get you nowhere, that I'm welded wrought iron with recessed rivets and no exposed nuts. It's not in my power to fall apart. I can only hold up your coop cup, cuddle bone, jungle gym, and full-length mirror so that together we can admire the long tail of your red tuxedo. Oh, but that strumpet, Mrs. Smith, uses me to woo and ensnare you. While she coyly calls you Mr. Neurotic, I'm the slave hoisting her gifts night and day, the tropical fruits, the softwood toys you gnaw. If I could produce snapshots of the former misters she's hand-reared, you'd cease to crave her stroking. Even if I found a way to froth up into gossamer netting and become an aviary, I can't compete with her bottomless wallet. While you slumbered snug inside my fitted night cover, she told her plaid nephew she's provided for you, her final companion in her will. As for me, if I'm lucky, I'm destined for a yard sale. At least I'm always on hand to hear you mimic the clock. If only I could evaporate. At least, my pet, you take it all out on me instead of plucking yourself. If only I could rust away. At least I winced for you during your youthful, panicked attempts to bite through me. If only I could unlatch. At least I witnessed those attacks, though they've become habit, become half-hearted. If only I could speak. This next one is called New School. Banished purple pants, dumpster stuff, along with saddle shoes with 2-inch heels. Heels! When I first came upon the pair of them, spotlit within the Tom McCann window for men, I stood anxious and transfixed 2 Saturdays in a row, drawn to all that swayed arches suggested upon a carpeted pedestal. I sported them the first day at my first high school. Couldn't have made a more neon mistake. Lowered my gaze to lines dividing tile floors. Learned a face won't burn all the way from homeroom to math class. St. Jude, thanks for this second school, second chance to get lost, blend in. Navy blue windbreaker, gray cords, worn keds. At home, I practice walking like a boy, aligning each step along parallel lines. I nest inside a corner study carol, become gerbil without squeak, scratch, or telltale patter of scamper. I shun other slouching misfits even if at lunch I nibble turkey tetrazzini alone. Too bad this new school's rules say even 4 eyes play sports after 2 o'clock. My shins block kicks in third team soccer, muddy, sagging pads, almost cushion bone, and I wonder if I'll always need a burrow. Unnoticed underclassman on a locker room bench, I don't let slip a mammoth moan when the varsity MVP strips down, good God, to just plump cockhead. It scrolled Corona trophy winning mousetrap inches from my enormous, untamable eyes. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Boston subway system, it's called the T colloquially. This is called the woman with a transparent purse. The woman with a transparent purse has nothing to hide. She boards the T matter-of-factly in a sleeveless dress, the barest of sandals. She's self-assured as Twiggy in a mini at a photo shoot. I don't need X-ray vision to count the dimes inside her matching change pouch. But is this intimacy? There's no cranny, no crevice, no cache. She isn't ashamed of tampons, of what Daughters of Isabella called in whispers, the curse. I wonder if this cellophane fashion statement has a seam where lint collects. She probably doesn't worry that an accidental blow to the head might delete her password. She probably doesn't squirrel away a spare key. Maybe she never locks her doors. Maybe she lives in a glass house. Imagine getting ready for work and ready for bed without shades, blinds, or drapes. A mannequin? Richly suited crowds could gawk whenever clerks stripped us of underclothes. Even the flashiest, swishiest goldfish sometimes needs to hover and rest its pucker behind a screen of plastic plants. Who'd choose to stand on the subway with lucite skin, a visible woman, fallopian tubes available to the passing glance of every passerby? If I had a purse, it would be the nook where where I tuck an assortment of worries in the form of hot pink Pepto-Bismol and breath mints flecked with green. Flipped among lozenges would be daydreams and their props, a stash of Trojans, my diaphragm, perhaps some just begun poems, all membrane and heartbeat. The last thing I'd want hanging on 2 straps from my arm would be an ultrasound of myself advertising my jellyfish dreams. So this next poem is a little bit more complicated because in it, the speaker's writing a letter and the voice jumps back between the words of the letter and the thoughts that the speaker's having while writing the letter. But I'm hoping that you'll be able to hear what I'm doing in it. I practiced reading this a few times this morning and couldn't get through it without crying, so who knows what will happen. My younger brother, David, died of AIDS when he was 28. This is called Echo, and it's in 5 parts. Echo, 1. I creep up to the postal clerk and with a low and quavering voice, ask for a stamp to heaven. She leafs through waxy envelopes, 4 cents. I don't hold up the line to whisper, can I use just any post box? I wonder about an unmarked holding bay in the regional postal center, whether our letters get launched after midnight from some Utah desert. Since this stamp exists, I'm pinching it. Other mourners must have used it, but why haven't I heard? If it were advertised, surely there'd be a stampede at opening time. Am I allowed to mention the sticky on one side rectangle I've tucked inside my backpack's only pocket within a pocket? 2. Of course, I don't have his address filed under R in my small spiral notebook. Anxious to avoid return to sender, I'll include my brother's middle name. Make sure my penmanship's legible as I loop the letters P, A, U, L, the name of the second saint, writer of epistles, invoked at my brother's baptism to rudder and shield him. 3. Inside the purple and white stamp, I become an astronaut on a spacewalk, surveying Earth beyond absurdly high clouds. The peninsula below bears no shape I've studied on my globe. A craterless white orb, moon-sized, this might be an optical illusion, hangs close by, glowing like a pearl. Am I standing on anything? A spaceship's invisible bridge staffed by archangels? Evenly curved lines beam back and forth between this sphere and Earth's two hemispheres. Study hall doodles of wave-like transmissions bounce from the sunlit half of our planet to the invisible side. Boing! I'm floating in a cartoon framed by capital letters spelling out communications for peace, Echo 1. Wait a minute. Am I untethered? 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 If I turn my head, will I find a gate, a blessed host, my brother's open, lesion-free arms? 4. Where to begin? Dear, dearest David, is he beyond names? Are you okay? Am I limited to one side of a single feather heft sheet of powder blue onion skin that folds into its own envelope? Must each vowel therefore weigh more than I can bear? We loved you so, still do. I'm afraid if I step outside the airlock, I miss you sorely. I'll only encounter the need to backtrack rapidly one door at a time. Or have you hovered above me all along? Could I have sensed that? Or is it as though he's in a coma, hazily aware some letter is forthcoming? How much loneliness did you know? Will I only receive an echo? Will I even receive an echo? It's strange to inhabit days, then years without you, to keep changing without being able to phone. Do you miss chatting loosely, puncturing my big brother certainties after the rates went down at 11? If you have had leisure to float through reruns of our childhood dramas, could we at least compare notes? Do I need to press rewind? Are you forbidden to give advice? Is he even a coherent consciousness? Do you watch my skin wrinkle, my face grow more like Dad's, my edges soften? or is what he was in a dimension beyond? I'm nearing the end of this page. Beyond consciousness? Have you completely forgiven me beyond what I can perceive? How will your messages arrive? Will I be able to decipher them? Have you completely forgotten me? Is no sequel possible? What could the future mean to the dead? 5. Communications is plural, implying there will be more, because the purpose of these yet to come spaceborne messages is to foster peace. Whose peace? Mine? His? Is he troubled? Does what I'm sprinting down the block to drop inside a metal box and shake its creaky sideways door back and forth one extra time to make sure it's fallen have anything to do with answers or peace? This is the last one, and I have to say I'm looking forward to the open mic. This is called Spells Reversal. I bolt upright to sitting, expulsed from a dream where snickering centurions from an absent conquering legion planned to rape me. Wind swirled grit ticked at the linen skirt of the dais where I lay, companioned by my pulse, the only other sound. On my own, I guessed my instructions, removed even folded tunic, loincloth, spread myself out on captured belly and balls. As I eyed ants scouting my slick flesh, I prayed subservience might spare me auction and lash. I strained to hear a camel's snort from the direction of the soldier's return. 3 vultures wheeled in the east. A bruise spread across the western sky. Its looming roused me, evoked a fist-like no, thrust up by diaphragm, knuckling past dry throat, punching beyond my teeth. Bird, I rose to my knees, staggered to strap on sandals. Even if it would be slower, it might be safer to shun paving stones and cut across dunes towards grass-edged ravines leading to the next oasis. Maybe a sirocco would erase my path. Maybe cavalry wouldn't bother to track me. But as I scuttled, I grasped it didn't matter if elders at the closest crossroads balked at hiding their Numidian kin. Didn't matter if scorpions stung or vipers bit, if snarling hyenas surrounded me, or if I died of plain thirst. Once I stepped one step from my spot and didn't head back, I was no. I was awake before I awoke. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephen. Delightful to hear you read again. Terrific work, terrific poems, terrific reading of them. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, moving. Okay, let's give both of our featured readers another round of applause. Thank you. Yes, terrific job. And thank you to everyone for coming out today and being a part of our Sturgeon Moon Poetry reading, hearing these readers. And now is the time. Oh, Stephen, would you please post in chat your website so everyone can learn more about your work, and purchase books. Thank you so much. And remember that if you came in late, that Shelley Chesley's book is available at www.longshippress.com, and that is also on the chat. We're now going to begin our open mic, and we have open mic readers that have signed up before the session. So you came in about 30 seconds under the time. Both of you did. Terrific. Our open mic readers, I'd just like to remind everyone how our open mic reading works. If you'd like to read for the open mic for our next reading, which will be in July, and I'll speak more about that, please email me between now and then at lucas.t274@gmail.com. I will put that up on the chat. But these folks that will read at the open mic have signed up since last reading. And I'm going to introduce each one of them very briefly. I know them all. And then each one of them will just read one poem without telling stories about the poems. If you want to tell stories about the poems, you get to be a featured reader. And there's not a single person that's on the open mic that either hasn't been a featured reader for us or will be a featured reader for us in days to come. So we appreciate them. First up, we're going to have read for us Kat Crawford. I've known Kat for quite some time, met her in the MFA program at Dominican University, and her most recent collection is All of It by Finishing Line Press. So Kat, unmute yourself and read us a poem.
Thanks, Terry. Thanks everybody for being here. This is a recent poem called Dreams to Save Us. There were great swaths of wooden boxes of time stacked, large steel clips holding in bursts of memories, entire eras. An ark filled with handmade animals in pairs. Will all be saved. Exotic creatures, extraordinary, some odorous. Curved tails and leaves and stems for lashes. We hold our collective breath in anticipation of the prized, promised land. But what is promised? At dusk, jade and teal trees make their way to us under a clear sky, still wet from a river of rain. Trill of red tails fills the air. Mockingbirds mimic their cries. In my back pocket, a small ancient Bible, front cover missing, inscribed, to Patty, with love, Aunt Ollie, December 1902. We all huddled together, a few feeding others dried fruit and hard bread, taken in haste as the call came to board. Everything we carried on, we let go overboard. Vests, jackets, woolen clothes, necklaces once dear, glinting as they fell. Small tufts of clothing ballooned by water, inviting others to join us on the miniature islands of pants and shirts, occasionally bowing to the weight of sea turtles coming to rest before reaching the South Pacific, knowing full well the perils of temporariness. We gazed at tortoise splendor from the ark, wondering when fresh water would appear. In her turquoise feather cape, Mother Macaw cried, "Open the grand barrels." She was one who knew enough language to save us. Howler monkeys never mastered our tongue and would rather frighten the evil that still lurks in dark corners. Streaking little brown monsters, they boomed their commands louder than the mouthy dragons. Beastly waves threatened our demise like the drumbeat of our hearts. Inside the dimly lit cabin were Noah and Leah, entwined, breathing even and deep. The doves cooed, light flickering from an unknown source.
Thank you very much, Kat. Always
Thanks.
great to hear you read. Kat has featured for Sturgeon Moon before. She's actually finishing up a manuscript, and when that gets published, she'll be featuring again, I'm sure. Thank you very much. Okay, I didn't see him come in. Is Indigo Moore here? Indigo, are you here? If you are, unmute yourself and read us a poem. But I didn't see you come in. Okay. All right. I did see Catherine Clark Sales. Catherine Clark Sales, another poet friend of mine from the Dominican University MFA program. Her most recent book is The Telling the Listening by St. Julian Press. What are you going to read for us today, Catherine?
I'm going to read a poem called Fort Ord Family Housing, decommissioned 1994. Fort Ord used to be an army post, which I grew up in many army posts. Actually, they were Air Force, but Fort Ord Family Housing, decommissioned 1994. Wives fight the battles of milk or new shoes, of rusty blue Plymouths that shimmy at 40 and clank like a tank when they break. Alone, they imagine a knock on the door and a chaplain with his hat under his arm. Sometimes they pace with a baby who screams and try not to think, nightmare thought, that a pillow pushed hard to baby's face might give her some sleep. Wives, often lonely, sometimes relieved that her soldier deployed too far away for anger and stripes of bruised flesh. So many new towns and houses no one ever loved, mud-colored blocks in strict rows, clotheslines of diapers and sheets, gritty from sandy medicinal wind, eucalyptus and sagebrush in clumps, foot-broken paths worn by battalions of children, born with a faint khaki stain like a uniform just under the skin, taught to stand at attention, suck in and say, "Sir," as they learn the ranks and ropes of new schools, new friends with each move, friends in the troops, because townies are rookies who can't understand that buddies from foxholes hang tough together and never look back.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Excellent reading. You know, I know most of you. I think there's only one or two people that were on the Zoom that I didn't know. But I know all of you to be terrific poets. And I wish this were in person, because I wish we could just have a get together afterwards. I know how many connections there would be between you, because I know all of you, right? So someday perhaps we'll be able to have an in-person reading and some of you attend. It's just great to hear all of you read. I wish all of you knew one another. So all of you who have books, if you'd like to put on the chat, you know, where we may find your book, please do so. If you want to put your email address to share with the group, all of you are such fine poets. It would be fun to get all of you together. Okay, so next, Jan Fraser. Jan is now a long-term, I guess, long-time poet in my poetry community for a long time, and writes some wonderful poems. She's currently finishing up a chapbook about the Pacific Northwest, an island that maybe you could just remind us what that island is. And whenever that chapbook's completed, I'll be sharing that with all of you. Jan, what are you reading for us today?
I'm reading a poem called Hot Skies. The island is called Saturna Island.
Okay, thanks. Thanks.
That isn't where the hot skies are. I mean, hot skies are everywhere. Okay. Naked tips of coal black pines, rupture acrid haze, bionic dragonflies skid close to water's glassy membrane, dipping, rising, dropping balm on smoldering ridge. Torch truck beside a lone brick chimney, carefree owners rev past just yesterday. Morning winds slip greasy fingers into rubble, sift carelessly what was before. In spring again, migrant smoke from northern forests makes its brazen entrance, slithers over border. Massive mountains, monuments of layered trash, spew exotic poisons. Without warning, fire-breathing dragon inhales Dreamtown in the tropics. We count out days with rain, remembering now to pray for moisture scent.
Thank you very much, Jan. Always good to hear you read.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Okay, I did not see Lalit Kumar come in either. Oh, there you are, Lalit.
I'm here, Terry.
Oh,
Yeah.
you are here. Fantastic. Okay, good. Lalit has just published a book called Yosemite of My Heart. And what are you going to read for us today, Lalit?
Sure. Thank you, Terry, and hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here. So I'm going to read a poem from my book called Yosemite of My Heart. So the poem I'm going to read is called Alone in San Francisco. Sauntering down the Embarcadero along the edges of Pier 39, a foggy morning clings to the city, rumbling itself awake from slumber. I trudge along the wooden pier. Waves lap at the jetty, winds howl. A pelican nonchalantly flaps his wings and flies past my view ahead. It's not so lonely after all. Nature resplendent in its spread today. Winds, waves, ocean seem to have no bearing to the seasons of my mind. Nature is constant. My mind shifts with each seed of thought. I am not so lonely after all. I open my arms to welcome the oncoming wind. Feel it directly on my face. I let it caress my skin. I feel it ruffle my hair, and I close my eyes to witness the love of my friend. I jump into the oncoming waves, the Pacific blues, cold as the thaw in my heart, an instant commingling of two long-lost lovers for whom distance has not dimmed the light of their hearts. Distant memory has a way of its own to ebb and flow with the tide. A dream can rise a flutter with the waves or sink to the bottom with the changing tides and time. The ocean water, I feared it may drown me. Instead, it taught me how to swim along with the tide. Thank you.
Thank you, Lalit. It's good to have you here. I think
Thank you
first
so much,
time
Terry.
here, first time reading for us. So thank you very much, and good luck on your book. We're probably going to be hearing more from Lalit. We'll talk about that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Pamela Singer, what are you reading for us today? Pamela and I have been working together for several years, and she's a wonderful poet, and she also has a manuscript that's looking for a home. So Pamela, what are you reading for us today? Pamela, are you here? I saw you. I saw you come in. Yes, you need to unmute.
Yeah, can you hear
Okay,
me?
there we go. Good.
Okay. Okay, this poem is called Code Blue. In hospital quiet, I chase my thoughts of dying. Night's emptiness takes breath into air. I am not who I am or ever have been. Not forgotten, not forgiven, nor forgotten. Spirits have me undone. IVs, x-rays, pulse, and blood pressure checked throughout the night, drugged, confusion, streams of words. My nurse says, Your skin is beautiful. I chuckle even with a tube down my throat. Wrapped in gauze, she floats above my body. I tell her I cleanse my face with seaweed and wet rose petals. Bathe my body with salt, drink dandelion and comfrey root tea, eat borage and curly dock. I search her face. Have we met in another hospital? In midnight's effervescence? A bird hits the window. Broken body swings from a thin branch. Starlings on a telephone wire. An oak spins, guides the wind, becomes its movements. I cannot feel its strength in this vapid room, but sense the wind turning into uncertainty.
Thank you very much, Pamela. Thank you for being here and reading for us today. Okay, next we have Jane McPherson. Jane is the author of Orphan at the Well. I hope that's her most recent book. If you have a more recent book, let us know. Jane, what are you reading for us today? Have you unmuted, Jane? Let's see, are you still here? Jane, you're here. You need to unmute. I see you. I see you, but you're muted. Can you hear me? Okay. The unmute button is down on your left, all the way down. There's a microphone. You can say unmute. And if you want to work on that, we'll move on. If you get unmuted, I'll come back to you, okay? And your camera's off as well. Okay, we're going to move on for now. Ken Weir is a new attendee at Sturgeon Moon Poetry. I've made his acquaintance within the past week or so, and his book is What Do You Think? And Ken, good to have you. What are you reading for us today?
I'm reading If You Have These. Can you see me there?
We hear you, but we don't see you. Now we do. Great.
This is a poem written for our older son, and it relates to the Atlantic coast of Ireland. If you have these, the smell of turf smoke, roar of Atlantic rollers, the splash of purple heather, blaze of orange Montbretia, the dark promise of blackberries, the crackle of grasshoppers, keening of a gull, or rasp of the crows, the hand of a man who knew your father, the laughter of friends, the silence of the full moon, the stone on which my brothers sat. I have no more to give. Thank you.
Thank you very much for reading today, Ken. Appreciate your being here. And I saw that you already put how to get a hold of your book on chat. And
Yes.
that's true of everyone may put on chat, how to get a hold of their book. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for reading for us.
My pleasure.
Okay. All right. I have Joan Barano next. She texted me that she didn't have a good connection. Joan, I'm going to give you the option of reading if you think your connection's good enough.
I could try.
Okay.
But if it's not working, just interrupt me.
Okay. All right. Well, you're doing fine now.
Okay. All right.
Joan Barano, if you don't know her, she is the founder, former director of the MFA program at Dominican University, a poet with many, many books. Is Reading Zaborska in a Time of Plague your most recent?
Yes.
Yes, and that won the Brick Road Poetry Prize in 2023, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. What are you going to read for us?
I'm going to read a poem called Settling, and it's sort of like an elegy for my mother, but it's in her voice.
Okay.
This is just the kind of tea box I asked for years before my diagnosis. Not a plane crash I have joked about being the best way to die, but close enough. I see you showed something nice in my
Hey, Joan, you
closet.
are freezing. Yeah, you are frozen.
Okay,
All
all right, so then it's
you
not
wanna,
gonna
you
work.
wanna
So,
try,
but
you wanna
anyway.
try something? Or you wanna try, turning off your video? Stop your video.
No,
and-
that's okay. I'll just read in the next one.
Okay,
That's all right. Thank you,
okay,
though.
all right.
Okay.
Thank you for being here. Okay, thanks. Okay. All right, these technical problems sometimes interfere with us. Okay, our next reader is Milo Schaaf. I'm delighted to have Milo here today. This is the first appearance she's made at our Sturgeon Moon poetry readings. Her book is Blown Into Now, Poems for a Journey. And I'm delighted to have her. What are you reading for us today, Milo?
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I'm going to be reading from Blown Into Now, Poems for a Journey, a poem called Promise of the Elements, Rain, Snow, and Sun. And it's for all who mourn. And when you cry, I will find you. When you're breaking or empty and you can't speak, close your eyes, lean your head back, feel my silver fingers loosed from above to wash free your fears. Or call to me when I climb on a northern wind, or when I dive like a seabird, uncaged. Always I will come by autumn's end, a cloud of plush, thick on meadow grass, to quiet you with a blanket. Or when someday the white, gray, and black shiver and dissolve, I will make you warm. I will return with unwalked sand, with streaming jubilee sky, with a ribbon of pelicans that skim the waves like kites. May these offerings open you like a diamond knife, open again, alight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Milo, for reading for us today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, our final reader in our open mic. I'll give Jane another chance. Jane, are you able to unmute and read a poem for us? I see you in the list, but perhaps you're having technical difficulties as well. Okay. So our final reader in our open mic is going to be Dorinda Wagner, a dear friend of mine and another fellow MFA partner. Actually, she graduated a semester before I did. I was in her class originally and had to drop out for a semester, and she graduated ahead of me. But I'm so delighted to hear her read today. Her brand new book from Treehouse Press is Four Fields. I also want to mention that Dorinda is going to be one of our featured readers in our July Sturgeon Moon reading, which is going to be July the 20th. You'll be hearing more about that from me. And also featuring with her is going to be Suzanne Fritchcorn. And Suzanne's book is Whipsaw from Anhinga Press. So wonderful that Dorinda's here, because you'll be getting a sample of what you're hearing 2 months from now in our July reading. Dorinda, what are you reading for us today?
Thanks, Terry, and thanks everyone for being here. I'll be reading from my forthcoming book. It publishes in July of this year. The speed of light does not follow any acceptable form of logic. My father is outside the locked ward, and my sister. Both my sisters and my brother. Our father keeps his coat on at all times. My father is in a world where I am his mother. My husband is the man from the laundromat. My brother-in-law is the man from the bank. The light we can see in tonight's sky is from stars already left. The light we can see and the coat. The nurses at the locked ward will quickly jump and run the length of their stations to sound the alarm. When my father left this world, he stayed in this world. He will not be in this world again. Everyone wants him to be in the locked ward with his coat except for him. Our father is unhappy here. Father wants to be folded into a neat, tight triangle of stars. The light we can see. It is tired. It has traveled a very long way. It wants to come in and remove its coat. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dorinda, for being here today and
Thank
for
you.
reading and giving us a sample of more to come.
Yeah, come back in July.
More to come in July. Let's give all of our readers another final round of applause. Our two featured readers, Shelley Chesley and Steven Riel, and every single one of our open mic readers, and everyone who's here is a lover of poetry, who I'm sure are also writers of poetry and could just have easily read for the open mic. And if you'd like to read at the July open mic, please email me. I put my email in the chat, lucas.t274@gmail.com. I always open up at this point. Are there any announcements? Are there anyone reading at other readings we should be aware of? Any other poetry announcements that anyone would like to make?
I'll be reading at the New Rivertown Poets in Petaluma on whatever the first Monday of June is.
Okay.
That'll be an in-person reading, and it's at 6:15 at Aqua's Cafe.
Good. Catherine and all of you, would you just drop me a note to my email about that? If I will probably send out one more newsletter before then, and I'll include it in the newsletter. So if anyone has any other readings or any other announcements, please email me those two and I'll include them in my newsletter. Anyone else?
Sure, Terry, I can go next. Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm actually doing a adventure and nature poetry workshop at Fremont Library on June 1st, 1:30 to 3 p.m.
Oh, good.
So if any of you are in Bay Area, welcome to, kind of join me. Would be glad to see some familiar faces.
Fantastic. Is that in the note that you sent me?
It's not, Terry. I will send you another note.
Okay, send me another note. Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'll include
It
that.
was about a different appearance.
Exactly. Okay, good. Good. I'll include
Thank you so
both.
much.
Thank you. Yeah. Anyone else? Any announcements? Great. Poets need one another. There are so few of us compared to all the fiction writers and all the memoirists in the world that, we need one another and to help one another. So good to hear from you. My next series of poetry workshops is beginning June the 1st for 6 weeks. We will not meet on July the 6th. We'll jump to July 13th. And the workshop series is about writing out of your comfort zone, okay? Writing poems out of your comfort zone in content as well as in structure. And my email is already up there, lucas.t274@gmail. If you're interested, email me and I'll give you all the scoop, okay? All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you again. A big round of applause for our featured readers, our open micers, and hope to see you all in July, if not sooner. Okay. Bye-bye. Have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
thank you.
Terry, bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you. You guys are the best. Great poetry community. Thank you. Thanks, Shelley.
Here.
Yeah, thanks, Kat.
Thank you.
Yep. Good job. I really do wish all of you could just know each other.